Hi guys, John from LookSmart Home Inspections right here in New Jersey. And I just want to share a couple thoughts about what I've learned over the past 25 years, doing home inspections in New Jersey. Now, this is not going to be a comprehensive list of everything, but I just kind of want to go stream of consciousness a little bit. I do have some notes that I may refer to also, but I just kind of want to give you guys an idea of some of the things that I've learned, and maybe that helps you in your own home purchase, journey. Maybe that helps you, with a house that you're currently living in, renting, owning, whatever the case may be. I make these videos just because one or two people, find them helpful and useful, and I really appreciate the feedback. So thank you for that. So, the main one of the things that I've learned is that there's no perfect house. New houses have problems as well as old houses have problems too. There's no perfect house. There's no house that a good New Jersey home inspector is going to go into and find nothing wrong, right? Somebody who takes the job seriously, who does the work and the homework and does a comprehensive top to bottom inspection is going to find something for sure. And in most cases, we'd actually find a lot of things. Not of all of it's catastrophic, but I want you guys to go in with your eyes open when you do a home inspection. We're going to find things. You're paying us because you want us to be your eyes in terms of your house purchase. You want us to be your advocate. You want somebody on your side and to tell you honestly, what's going on with the house, that you're thinking about buying. So I've done new homes, right out of the box, right out of the gate, that have a lot of problems. And I've done old homes with a lot of problems and everything in between. So just don't think that, because you're buying a renovated home or a brand new house or, it's a condo or if it's a townhouse, good home inspectors, we're going to find some issues, maybe not catastrophic, but at least give you an idea of what to expect down the road as far as what can go wrong or what's going wrong now. Okay, so number one thing that everyone really needs to understand that there is no perfect house, new or old. And doing this for 25 years, I've learned that the number one killer of homes is water. So when I have training a new home inspector, I do mentor, newer up and coming home inspectors. And what I do is I try to teach them about water. And water is the number one killer of homes in so many different ways. And that can be, a leaking roof, or that can be leaking flashings or windows. That could be plumbing leaks or issues with the plumbing system. That can be sewer line issues. That could be basement water infiltration problems, crawl space water infiltration problems, right? All of these things have to do with water, and water, it just destroys homes in so many different ways. Wood rot and mold and just in, framing, just really a lot of deterioration occurs when wood and building materials are subjected to water, and a lot of bad stuff happens. So paramount to what a New Jersey home inspector is going to look for in a home is water and how that water is being managed. And we're going to always look for signs of water infiltration, whether that be, a bad roof system, bad flashings, gutter system, plumbing system, basement water control, outside of the home. How is water being directionally controlled? Do we have a basement water infiltration problem, crawl space issue? We have standing water outside of the house. So water is so important, when a home inspector approaches looking at a home. And you as a buyer or you as an owner of a home also should do the same thing. And they teach you in home inspection school, think like a raindrop. But it's actually think like the flowing water. Raindrop, one drop is not so bad. But when you put, millions and millions of drops together, and those millions of drops create gallons of water and create tens and thousands of dollars of problems in homes. So yes, think like a raindrop, and always look for that water penetration. If you're, thinking about buying a house here in New Jersey, it's very, very important. The next thing I learned about spending 25 years, doing home inspections and helping people, buy homes, is that sellers hide stuff. And you want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but when it comes to real estate transactions and there's a lot of money on the line, people tend to lose their integrity, and people tend to do things that they wouldn't normally do. And when we do a house, we inspect a house, a New Jersey home inspector always has that in the back of his mind. What is the seller hiding? And it often they try to hide stuff, and sometimes we won't be able to find the stuff that they're hiding because it's hidden so well. But a lot of times we can, and it's really difficult to do a complete concealment job of whatever it is. Take for example, cracking in a foundation wall, or water entry in a basement or a crawl space, or termite damage, or mold. Right? These are the things that sellers tend to hide, either with new paint. Storage is really something that home inspectors, we have to watch out for, is that it's kind of that strategically placed storage, whether that be on against a foundation wall, in a garage, in a basement, odd storage. The rest of the basement is totally empty, and then you have one corner where there's all this stuff is stacked up. We've had, garbage cans in front of cracking. We've had, storage in front of cracking. We've had, attempts at patching, really bad foundation, new drywall placed over cracking, a sill plate insulation newly installed to cover termite damage. There's a lot of things that people do to hide issues in homes. So you want to believe people, but as a home inspector here in New Jersey, you always go into the home, understanding that it is a possibility that somebody is trying to conceal something, and that's something that's distressing, but also happens. So we can't, just take a blind eye and think that everybody's going to tell the truth and to be truthful and to not try to conceal defects. And we have to be especially wary about that, because once the house sells, the seller's usually off the hook. The client's going to call us if they find something later down the line. So we really need to bring our A game to every home inspection, and to do our best to try to, and nobody's perfect, of course, but we have to come into every home inspection with an idea that, what this seller could really be trying to conceal something. And one of the things that I've learned here also is that, flip houses are no bargain. And you can tell me that, some house flippers, they really take pride and they do the greatest job ever, and, everything is super. You know what? But that's really not the case. Okay. I would say that maybe 8 out of 10 flips have glaring problems. One of them may be marginally okay. And then, 1 out of 10, or maybe 10%, is done really well. So the odds are not in your favor when you're buying a flipped or recently renovated home, because why is somebody doing this? They're doing this for the profit margin, right? Or for the profit motive. They're not doing this out of the goodness of their heart, in terms of, oh, I really want to take on, this big mortgage. I want to, deal with all these contractors and, inside this house and everything, just for my own hobby, right? They're trying to sell you the house at a profit. And the profit motive makes people do things and cut corners all of the time. So a flip house is probably one of the most challenging jobs a home inspector here in New Jersey is going to have to take on. but we do it all the time. I do flips all the time. People hire me to do their flip house inspect their flip house all the time, and certainly we welcome that. But just understand, if you're buying a flip house, you're buying something that's really the profit motive. And a lot of times, everything will look great to the naked eye, right? Your kitchen will be right. Where do the flippers they spend their money on, right? Where do people really congregate and love to be, right? And it's the kitchen, right? So you'll see a beautiful, amazing kitchen, and also maybe a bathroom, primary bedroom, what have not. But it's really the infrastructure in a flip that tells you the story, right? The systems, the basement, the crawl space, because this is the unpretty stuff where the renovator or developer is not going to spend a lot of money. And this is the stuff that really comes to bite them later. So I've learned that we really have to pay attention, a lot of attention, to the infrastructure of the home, the basement, the crawl space, the lower levels. And, we will find defects, in the major other areas and rooms of the house, but it's really the infrastructure, the systems, the electrical, the framing, the foundation, water infiltration. That's where flippers don't really spend a lot of money. And that's where a good home inspector will come in and explain to you and call out all of the defects that were not corrected. And so be aware of that. Hire yourself a home inspector who has done thousands of flipped or renovated properties. So, they know what to look for. But be aware of that flip house. And I'm always aware of that flipped house, because I know that that property, that profit motive is always there. So, the next thing that I learned is that people don't tell the truth, and this kind of goes back to concealment. But people in real estate transactions, they bend the truth. They don't tell you the truth. And so when most of the sellers or the owners of the property will not be there during the home inspection, but some just won't leave, and they want to be there. And so, if they ask you, can you have any questions to me? And I'll ask him a question. Rarely do I get a straight answer. I never get a straight answer. I get, sort of a word salad type of answer that doesn't really clarify anything. So, just know that people in real estate transactions, not all of them, but there's a good portion of them, they're not going to tell you the truth. And if they tell you the truth, it'll be somewhat of a truth and not the full truth. It'll be maybe a half truth. And, I find a lot of sort of diversion techniques in that when I ask a direct question. So if an owner of a house is choosing to be there and they're looking after what I'm doing, I'm going to ask them questions, right? I'm just going to, that makes them uncomfortable. Not, if you're there, I'm going to ask you questions. And 90% of the time, I'll get some type of diverted answer that doesn't really address what I'm asking, in the first place. So be aware of that. I'm not saying everybody is untruthful, but when it comes to the money aspect of real estate and real estate transactions, people kind of lose their moral compass, I have found. And that's sellers lose it, agents lose it. Anyone really in the transaction that's involved with getting paid can sometimes stretch the truth to and it happens all the time. So go in with your eyes open when you're doing any kind of real estate transactions. I take whatever anybody tells me with really a grain of salt, and I do my own investigations. That's why I'm there. I'm being a detective in this house. I'm trying to find problems for my clients so I can best serve them. And if people interject with their own opinions and thoughts, I'll absorb that quickly, but I won't really stand on that. I want to find my own conclusions, and most good home inspectors here in New Jersey are going to do the same thing. We're not going to really just take anybody's word for anything. We're going to do our job correctly and find out, the real problems that exist in the home. So make sure you guys fully understand that people lie all the time when it comes to real estate transactions, for sure. And so the next thing is that sometimes there's pressure put on uh, home inspectors and appraisers. Basically, I can't really speak to the appraiser, but I can speak to the home on the home inspector's point of view. Now, I'm an independent home inspector, so the majority of my business comes from people finding me through online or word of mouth. I've been doing this long enough that I have a lot of word of mouth type of business. I work for families and their children, and then their extended family, and then you just kind of pass my name around, and I truly really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. And then people find me online. I'm not saying that I don't work for agents at all, but they are few and far between in my business. I really don't want to get involved with why that might be, but you can maybe draw your own conclusions on that. So sometimes there's pressure, and an agent will tell me, this is an as is sale, so you don't have to do, your full home inspection. And I have standards to meet. I have obligation to the state, my licensing, right? I have an obligation to my buyer, right? I'm not going to mail in a home inspection and do not a thorough of a home inspection, just because you tell me that it's an as is sale, or you tell me that all we're just doing structural, environmental, and safety today. Uh, that's great. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care how your real estate contract is written. I have state requirements to deal with, and to I have to make sure that I meet those requirements every single time. And I also have an obligation to the purchaser of the home, who's actually paying me, right? That's my boss for the day, and I need to make my boss happy. And my boss needs to see that I'm doing a thorough, comprehensive, and complete job for him or her. That is my objective. And a lot, we'll get pressure from, sometimes people will pressure us in terms of how to write something in a report. Can you say it this way, or can you say it that way? And the answer is, I'm going to say it my way. I'm going to say it the way I see it. I'm not going to be overly embellished on things. I think I have a very calm presence. I'm not making things more than they are, and I'm not understating, problems either. I'm going in. I think that a client he really wants a calm presence, so they can objectively understand and learn about the house that they're buying. But on the same token, I'm not going to go ahead and embellish something because my client wants that embellished, because they want to ask for a new roof. Or the same token, I won't have an agent say, tone it down on these things, because we really want the deal to go through. So either one of those two things, I let it pass one ear out the other ear, and I just pretend I didn't hear anything, and I do things my way. And my way is a thorough, comprehensive, complete, full of pictures, detailed report, home inspection with clarity, not over the top, but not under reporting either. Fair, fair. I think that's what the client is looking for. So any pressure from anybody outside sources is something that's unwarranted. It's unprofessional, and I just I don't really want to deal with that. And veteran home inspectors here in New Jersey are not going to put up with that. We're going to go through our own process. But One of the things I've learned is that, yes, there are people who pressure you, and it's up to you to be a professional and not succumb to those, those pressures. So I've also learned that there's a lot of deferred maintenance in homes. There's not people. I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but there's a good number of people who don't maintain their houses. Either they're not educated regarding maintenance, or they just don't have the time, or don't want to spend the money, or don't have the ability or willingness to learn how to maintain things. And, we go into a home and, there's a lot of maintenance problems. And, these problems of maintenance can, they didn't have to be there. If, the systems and the fixtures in the home and the electrical in the home and everything was, up to sort of a minimum standard of maintenance. But sometimes we go into a home and there's what we call deferred maintenance, where the maintenance is just not done or hasn't been done in years and years. And these homes do exist. And the problem with this is that the buyer doesn't really know that they are looking at a home with deferred maintenance a lot of the time. And it's really up to a thorough New Jersey home inspector to go in there and educate the client, regarding these maintenance issues that are lagging in a home. Because of it's just like an automobile, right? If the automobile has been serviced and they had their fluids changed, and their maintenance is up to speed, you're going to get a lot of life out of that automobile. Like, I keep my cars for like a decade or more. And so the same thing with houses. And that deferred maintenance, I've learned, just really catches up to homes. And you can really tell if a home has had deferred maintenance. And I know that right from the basement, right from looking at the systems. And then I know what type of inspection, this is going to be, going to the kitchen, the bathrooms, the interior rooms, and the attic space. So, maintenance is really important on a home. It's not a kind of a set it and forget it thing. It's really it's really super, super important. And so, I learned that clients are, they want to know exactly what's going on with the home, big issues and small issues. And it's not just about those big issues. Most of my clients hire me because they are, they did the research and they want somebody really detailed and who really spends time doing a very comprehensive report. Some of my clients like to accompany me on the home inspection. Others don't. Either way is fine by me, as long as I can, do the job correctly. And it's the small things sometimes that add up. It's not so much the material defect issues, which are sort of the major issues, and I've had videos explaining what a material defect is, but that's the bigger sort of stuff. But if you add 30 smaller items, that adds up to a lot of money, especially if that buyer is not really handy, or that buyer doesn't really have the desire to learn how to do some of the things in houses. Some people, they want to write checks to handy people or contractors and things like that. And other people are more hands-on, like myself. I like to maintain my own house, my own cars. That's kind of it's one of the things I enjoy. That's how I'm wired. But some people don't, and that's fine. But you need to understand that small issues in homes can add up to big money if you put 20 or 30 of those issues there. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. There's probably a lot more that I could say regarding a 25 year career in home inspection. I still enjoy what I do, and I still do it because I think that I can still make a difference. There's those clients who you can just impact in a positive way. It's the single mom. It's the older couple It's the new, new homeowner who are really relying on me and others like me in the profession, is to be honest and to tell them exactly, what to expect and the issues going on with the home, because, they don't know, they don't know. And that's what the satisfaction I still get from the job is, because I can still save people a lot of heartache and money, or I can sort of give them the peace of mind necessary to move, through with a transaction. So that's really the aspect of the job that I enjoy. And after 25 years, the aspect of the job that I don't really enjoy too much anymore, and it's kind of different, and is that everything, there's a lot of things now in real estate that are very pressurized, right? You look at a home and that's pressurized. You have to get a mortgage, that's pressurized. You have, the agents telling you to put an offer on the home before we lose it, that's pressurized. You have to figure out what the offer is. You have to do all of these things, and then they get to the home inspection, and my clients are just flat out exhausted and tired, right? And it didn't really used to be this way. It used to be um, more of a conversation. It used to be just a little bit different. It's kind of a different animal now, and that's probably the thing that I least enjoy now about it, is that my clients are just very under a lot of stress, and it's hard to now take in, what I'm saying, what I'm writing about on a home inspection, with everything else they have to deal with, because people today are under a lot of pressure, and buying a home is kind of a pressure filled type of situation, especially here in New Jersey and the Northeast. It wasn't really like that maybe a decade ago. I don't think. Like when I bought my house, I was able to visit it 3 times. I was able to ask questions. I was able to, get in touch with the owner of the house and ask questions and stuff. And now it's just a different thing. And I think that, I can still make a difference in that way. But I think that the pressure on people now is really to a point that's just really an unhealthy environment. And I don't really think that, the real estate market here in New Jersey and Northeast is really that healthy an environment. And we've really done an injustice, to our sort of our younger people, because homes are so expensive now. Uh, I live in a very modest home here. People ask me, do I have this big, perfect house? And the answer is I have a smaller home. It's well maintained. It's good for my wife and I. I don't need a whole lot. But even, small home like this, it costs a small fortune in New Jersey. And I think that's where sort of the disconnect, the feeling that I have for people, and the money that they spend in homes, and the pressure, that they're feeling. I just feel that tension now, where in years past it wasn't there. But anyway, you don't want to hear about that probably. But I hope this helped somebody. Thank you for watching. My name is John from LookSmart Home Inspections right here in New Jersey. Reach out if I can help you with anything, and we'll see you next time.